Once upon a time, men wore hats like kings wore crowns. Every man had one. It was a symbol of dignity, status, and confidence. But a man without a hat was like a man without shoes. But now it feels like men's hat culture is gone and extinct. And we've given hats as a tradition up to trendy white women at coffee shops with foliage tattoos. So how did these iconic hats go from the style of strong men like Eisenhower and Teddy Roosevelt to the go-to headdress for MLM Instagram influencers? Unlike the hats of today, these weren't just fashion statements, these were tools. They had a utility, and to best understand that utility, we need to go back to where did these iconic American hats come from. Now to fully understand the wide brim hat, there was lots of different styles, the raccoon skin hats, and there was all these different forms of hats, but they didn't serve a very particular purpose. They weren't a one size fits all, you could say. Now the wide brim hat, there was the Mexican style straw hat, which is actually similar to this, that became known as the sombrero. Now everyone knows that if you've done any sort of cultural appropriation on a Taco Tuesday, but Stetson jumped in, John B. Stetson, and created the first Stetson. You know, it was gonna be a hat that was water sealed. It was gonna be a hat that could keep your head warm. It was gonna be a hat that was wide brimmed enough to block the sun from getting in the way. And this created a really cool bit of innovation here where he created the Boss of the Plains hat. Now this was an unstructured original cowboy hat, and this is how it was originally worn by many of the Western cowboys at the time. Now, as time developed and people broke in their hats and wore their hats and dropped them off their horses and picked them back up and did a bunch of trades and craft work, their hats became funky shaped and had creases and styles and parts where their hand creased the top of the crown of the hat. And this became a badge of honor, I guess. This became almost a style to say, I've broken in my hat, I've worn my hat. Now, in a similar way to torn, ripped jeans being sold straight out of the store, Stetson then began to shape the hats themselves. So instead of you breaking them in from hard work and doing it yourself, they actually begin to add this cattleman's crown or the pinch crown, I forget exactly what it's called, and the slope that you see here. And the slope you would see from the original cowboy hat was actually when they would go lasso their cattle from the horses, they would get their brims out of their arms way. And that was how the shapes and styles of wide brim hats first originated. Now, due to the nature of these hats, men in power wore hats. Eisenhower, Harry Truman, Lyndon B. Johnson, but then on came the scene was JFK. Handsome, young, good looking, smart, Democrat, but actually just Republican in today's standards, and hatless. This dude had great hair and he kind of set the trend. But it wasn't too long after JFK set the trend of wearing no hat that it didn't end well for him. Was it the fact that wearing no hats made it more of an open target? Was it Big Hat going after JFK for taking away the hat market? I'm a sucker for a good conspiracy theory, and I know there's a lot around the JFK, but have we considered Stetson? Stetson's grandson, possibly? At the very least, hats create dignity. And if he was wearing a hat, we wouldn't have that horrific video of the top half of his skull flying into his wife's lap. All that to say, it doesn't surprise me that his successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, went back to the Stetson open road. Around that same time, we had James Dean, we had Elvis Presley. Hairstyles became a big thing. Hairstyles actually became a big thing because of women. This is kind of the first beginning of women taking over culture and then men following suit. Dare I say the feminization of men begins with hairstyles. People ditch their hats for fabulous hairstyles. Along the same time, vehicles became a thing with lower roofs, and it's just kind of uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you've ever tried to wear a wide-brimmed hat in a car, it does get in the way, and you gotta figure out a place to put it. I hate to admit it, but I kind of get why we ditched the wide brim hats. Now fast forward to today, and we kind of have the trendy women with foliage tattoos like we mentioned earlier, and they're the leading wearer of hats. And so now hats like these have seemed to have been associated with effeminate men. 5 to 10 years ago, the hipster movement was really big, and you would see tight pants and cardigans and a wide brim hat just like their wife. In recent years, it seems like this wannabe cowboy effect has taken on. I do think there is validity to this. I think men that grew up in cities are desiring to draw a distinction between the new version of men, the World Economic Forum version of men, the Democratic Party version of men, and what their true values are. And they kind of play that out with this LA cowboy effect. And I came to a hard realization myself. One day, me and my wife were in Whole Foods. We're grabbing some nice little snacks. We sit out in the front patio to eat our food. I'm sitting there dressed exactly as so. Denim shirt, wide brim hat, eating my food with my son and my wife. And this old lady sits on the same bench next to us. As we're eating, she's struggling to open up a package of salmon. I kind of glance over a couple times and I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, I know what that feels like to be hungry and you can't access your food. She looks over to me and says, do you have a knife on you? And I, sitting with my kid and my wife, you know, we had a fork out and a spoon, just like little baby things for this meal that we brought. And I was like, oh no, we only got a fork and a spoon. And she specifically leans in and says, I thought you would have a knife. Oh my goodness. I have never felt closer to the LGBTQ community until then. I realized the only thing separating me as a wide-brimmed hat wearer with a denim shirt from the wannabe LA cowboys or the effeminate hipster men was a knife. So what did I do? That's right, baby. And that was a big realization for me. I actually realized that what comes with this wide brim hat for true men isn't just a fashion statement or a style. It's a commitment to live a certain tradition. It's a commitment to protect your own. It's a commitment to work hard. And it's a commitment to be there for your community. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to identify as a rough and rugged cowboy, even if you're maybe a little bit more city life. But it does come with the responsibility of simply carrying a knife. If you have the means, possibly even a firearm. I think it's the wide brim hats wearer responsibility to draw a distinction, to reclaim the tradition of wide brim hats for men. But I don't think it stops at just wide brim hats. This is actually my own hat from my new collection, from my brand new hat shop, Hike and Hammer. You can pick up this hat at hikeandhammer.com. On the back, it says, protect your own. We have the fierce American traditional wolf right on the front there, along with this other hat in the Founders Collection, the willing to work hat. You see the wrench, the hammer, we got the beautiful sun. On the back, it says willing to work. And I also got these super sick stitched inside labels. Right now, I'm hand stitching these in as I inspect these hats for any blemishes. So you know you are getting the perfect hat in the box. So you can go to hikeandhammer.com, pick up one of these hats from the Founders Collection. This one's almost sold out, probably won't be restocked for a while. So get them while you can and be a part of a hat culture that's more than just trends and fashion. So head over to hikeandhammer.com or hit the link in the pinned comment below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one that explains how instruction manuals created useless men.